Israel's the only country in the world that can do what they have done for the last 2 years in Gaza, and really since the formation of the state in 1948, and have the world believe it's the victim. No other country in the world would get away with that.
Welcome to another episode of the Olive Roots podcast. I'm your host, Chose Ayub. Today we have somebody very interesting. He's a content creator. He's an independent journalist. His faith is an act of resistance. I want you to welcome Dan Hackett. Dan,
Hey, Josie, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going, bro?
Good. Thanks for
How
having
is
me.
your day going in where you are today?
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Is it cold there?
It's about 12 degrees.
Ooh, and I'm complaining about the 40s here. Well, thank you, Dan, for joining us today. I would love for you to start with your identity. So, if you can talk about where you were you raised, where's your family from, and anything you want to share with the audience. So, the stage is yours.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My dad's side of the family, all born and raised in New York City. My grandfather was born and raised in the Bronx. My grandmother was born in Brooklyn, raised in the Bronx. I still have family in, Westchester County, the New York metropolitan area. My mom, and my mom was born and raised here in Pittsburgh.
Wow. So, you have pretty much a lineage mostly in northern east of the United
Yeah,
States in a way.
yeah.
Cool, cool. So, how was it growing up in your area, diversity wise, religion wise, and financial wise?
So I grew up in a pretty affluent suburb of Pittsburgh. As far as diversity, not very diverse at all. I can count on little more than one hand the number of black and brown kids that I went to school with. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood.
How was it growing up in a white neighborhood, and how was the school? And when did you get more into seeing other ethnicities, backgrounds, and how did you react to all that growing up?
See, it was interesting because I was a freshman in high school when 9/11 happened. And, I mean, I'll admit, it was hard not to buy into the propaganda. It was hard not to buy into the propaganda at that time because it was just so prevalent. But the older that I got, like I'm 39, so I would say probably my mid 20s was when my worldview changed and I started to realize, you know what? We've been fed a bunch of lies. Like Muslims and people from the Middle East aren't what the media is making them out to be.
Yeah, I remember I came to the US 3 weeks before September 11th.
Oh, wow.
And I go from one hell to another, right? So, people asking me where you from. I'm like, Palestine. They're like, oh, Pakistan. I'm like, no, buddy, I'm not Pakistani. And then they're like, where from? I was like, where Jesus from? And they're like, oh, Israel. I was like, no, I'm from Palestine. It's a branding issue.
Yeah.
And then I had to tell them about the whole history.
Yeah. And so I've made lots of Palestinian friends over the last 2 years, and the first time I heard "Oh, where are you from? Palestine. Oh, you mean Pakistan?" I thought they were joking, but the more I've heard so many Palestinians say that, and I'm like, "You've gotta be kidding me." Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
even remotely close, geographically speaking.
Most people don't know much about Palestine, at
Yeah.
least before the recent genocide for the past 2 years. They did not hear about it much. And if they did, it's like in history books, right?
Yeah.
So when you say Palestine, all that their brain goes to is Pakistan.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't look the same. We don't speak the same language. We don't have the same food. Like we're from the Levant, they're from Asia. But yeah, so it was very interesting for me during September 11 and all the confusion of Americans. So tell me, like when you saw what happened in September 11, obviously you are not aware of everything today, who's behind that whole thing.
Yeah.
and you were probably fed all the lies. What was your instinct? Were you like, oh, the Middle Eastern Muslims, Arabs, whatever, is attacking us. We have to protect ourselves. We have to go there and kill everybody. Like, how did you personally react?
Well, I have a unique perspective on it because I was actually on top of the World Trade Center on September 1st, 2001. So it was it was surreal to me in the sense that if that had happened 10 days if it had happened 10 days earlier, I would have been one of the 3,000 people that lost their lives that day. So it was really surreal to me, but I mean, I bought the hype. I mean, I bought the propaganda like the average American, but I also knew that there had to be more to the story because I've been a lover of history since I was a kid. And I knew about, the CIA funding Osama bin Laden when he was a mujahideen in Afghanistan fighting the Soviets. So I knew that there had to be more to the story. What it was, I didn't know. I didn't know what I know now about the 5 dancing Israelis and Netanyahu writing in a book 5 years before it happened that there would be a terrorist attack at the World Trade Center. And the more I learned that and the more I went down that rabbit hole, so to speak, the more I realized, we were fed a bunch of lies. It was used to justify an illegal and immoral war, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, in my opinion.
Yeah, which caused the death of American servicemen and
Mhm.
innocent lives in both of those countries. So, wow, you were in the trade centers like a week or so before the incident.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about that experience and where were you? What were you doing there? Which level were you on? And how was it there? Because I never learned about those buildings until September 11th.
Yeah, so my dad is a big, tennis aficionado and fan, so we would go to the US Open tennis tournament which is out in Queens every Labor Day weekend. My dad went for 20 straight years, I went for a good 10 years, and in New York City, they have these, like, double-decker bus tours that you can do where they take you to different, attractions or landmarks. And we just decided our last day there to hop on one of those buses and go downtown. And we got off at the World Trade Center and we went up to the observation deck. And it was such a clear day that you could see all the way out into Brooklyn and New Jersey. And I remember we were so high up that we were looking down on helicopters. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that sticks out to me the most. And then we went up to the roof and my dad took a picture of me up on the roof. I took a picture of him up on the roof, and it's in this September, it'll be 25 years, and I don't think I've looked at those pictures once since I took them. It's just too surreal. And on top of that, September 11th is my mother's birthday. So,
Wow.
yeah, so she hasn't watched the news since that day on her birthday because it's just constant, memorials and replaying of the footage. It's not a very celebratory day for her.
Yeah, it's a sad day, man. A lot of lives were lost
Yeah.
and the propaganda kept pushing and that's what these entities do, man. They sacrifice the lives of people to push the propaganda and the people suffer, whether
Yeah.
it's the American people or people in the so-called Middle East, Iraq, Iran, Palestine, whatever, right? Even the Israeli people suffer too because
Mhm.
of that as well, when you think about it. Okay, so what did you get into after graduating from high school?
Oh, geez. I tried college, it really wasn't for me. Like, I can't do the strict learning. I'm very much a self learner. I like to learn at my own pace, and, I tried that. I did some volunteer work with the American Red Cross in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, so, I mean, I'm very much humanitarian focused, and that was a life-changing experience, and that's really that work has shaped how I view what's gone on the last 2 years in Palestine because I've seen well, it's not the same level of destruction. Well, Katrina wasn't the same level of destruction as, what's gone on in Palestine since 1948. It it showed me that, people like destruction is destruction no matter where it is.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that experience. I didn't know that you were part of that project, I guess, or organization.
Yeah, it was surreal. I remember going into the lower Ninth Ward, which was one of the hardest hit neighborhoods in New Orleans by Hurricane Katrina, and looking back on it, it was very similar to the images we see coming out of Gaza, just complete and utter devastation, and you wonder how anybody could have survived that.
Wow. So you saw everything with your own eyes.
Mhm.
Wow. That's wild, man, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the US. I mean, recently, what happened a couple of months ago, or maybe it's been a year because time is flying in North Carolina, right?
Yeah,
With the flooding and stuff, and people were deserted, and America was sending money to foreign countries instead of helping the American people in North Carolina.
yeah.
Same thing happens in California when they burned the forests and people's houses, along with the rich people's mansions, got destroyed. And same thing with Hawaii. And then you're seeing what's happening there. So it's interesting that America's natural disasters or man made disasters, they don't care about the people. You know, how do
Yeah.
you feel as an American seeing all your tax dollars, which I'm an American now too, but you're born and raised here. How do you see that as a born and raised in this country, American, that your money, tax dollars, is funding wars and genocides around the world? And how do you think we can stop this madness?
I mean, I'm gonna be blunt. I'm ashamed to be an American. I'm ashamed that through my tax dollars, I'm complicit in the genocide of the Palestinian people. And to answer your question about how we change it, we get APAC out. We get APAC backed candidates out. We get people in there that want to put Americans first. That's the thing that blows my mind about this current administration is he ran on a platform of no new wars and putting America first. And here we are in almost a year to the day into his second term in office, and we're worrying about whether or not he's going to strike Iran, what more he's going to do in Venezuela, how much more money he's going to give the occupation to continue what they're doing in Gaza and the West Bank. I didn't vote for him, but I I fully believe that the blood of Venezuelans and potentially more Iranians and obviously Palestinians is on the hands of the people that voted for him.
Yeah, like ever since I've been in the US before I became a citizen, I never got into looking at the politics here. And I never was into politics, even though as a Palestinian, you're submerged with that stuff back home. But you try to live a life and avoid all that so you can just have decency and have a life back home under the occupation. So you come here where I can be more free. America did give me freedom. It didn't give me support, but it gave me freedom. The support I got is from not America, Americans, the people, because the government does not represent the people. And I never shame people for their country, right? So I remember coming here and not getting into politics, and then it became the time where I became a citizen, and then the voting of 2020, because I got it in 2018. So I've been in this country for like 17 years before I got my citizenship. All right, takes a long time, man, and I did it the legal way. So then I was like, okay, we got Biden, a potato, and we got Trump, a businessman and a liar, and I'm like, okay, the Democrats are wicked, the Republicans are wicked, they both support Israel. So I didn't vote, right? But the thing that Trump did in 2016, he sold a lie. He came like a businessman. He's not from the politics. He wants to make America great again, right? That was his slogan, which I'm like, okay, cool. You want to make America great again. Okay, again, okay, whatever, but make America great. So I'm like, okay. And he wants to drain the swamp, the deep state. Okay. He wants to bring business back to America, make the Americans flourish economically, and all these good things that he said he's going to do. But then we realize it's all lies. The first thing he did is move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem for Israel, which claims that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And then there has been some noticing of his conversion to Judaism, going to the wall, doing his worship of the wall. And then his daughter converting, and his ex wife was one of that specific faith. And they're pretty much all Zionists, right? Then Biden wins, and he's like, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. So, and he tells you, I'm a Zionist. So you're like, okay, you're a Zionist, and you're a Zionist. Then the genocide starts with Genocide Joe, and it continues with Genocide Trump. And for the first time, I see the mega people divided. Did you see that? Did you notice how even the conservative mega people started getting divided?
Yeah, I did, and it was over Israel of all things. Yeah, I've noticed, especially on social media, I've noticed there are two distinct camps within those that support Donald Trump. There are those that support him and Israel, and there are those that truly want to be America first. Like if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be agreeing with someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene when she says we need to defund Israel and not send them any more of their money, I would have told you were crazy. But here we are in 2026 and she said it and I agree with it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I remember I've been watching people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens from long time ago, and they said some weird stuff, but they always said some correct stuff, right? And they challenged the narratives, and that's what
Yeah.
we're supposed to do: agree to disagree, challenge the narrative, and ask questions. What I appreciate about Tucker Carlson, he always asks questions. That's why he got kicked out of Fox News,
Yeah.
right? And Candace was standing her stance for Christ, and she get kicks out of Daily Wire, and she's questioning the genocide as a Christian that's supposed to be against any genocide, right?
Yeah.
So those people get kicked out, and then they start digging, and every time they go down the rabbit hole is the Zionist occupation over America. So it's very beautiful to see. What about people like Nick Fuentes? What do you think about people like him? Because he's like, I'm here and I'm here, and it's kind of like hard to determine what's going on there.
Yeah, I can't figure him out because there are some times where I think, "Oh, he's in the same boat as, a Candace Owens and a Tucker Carlson." And then, like, there are times where he says stuff about Israel, and I wonder, did he get the call?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I can't figure him out for the life of me when it comes to Israel. Like I said, there are times where I mean, I'll be honest, I mean, he's a Christian nationalist, so I don't agree with the majority of his worldview and how he views the world and how he wants the United States to be run. But there are some things that he says about Israel where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then there are other times where it's like, are you for real? Like, you're completely contradicting what he said. And like getting back to Tucker real quick, like I give him all the credit in the world because when he put out his first video about Palestine, he didn't hold back. He went straight for the American evangelical Christian and said, "Hey, there are Palestinian Christians. You do know that, right? And you should be shocked and abhorred that Israel is slaughtering them all the same as Palestinian Muslims, but yet you support Israel." Like I was very surprised because we see a lot of people that you know they want to play both sides. They sit on the fence and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm just for peace and I'm just for humanity. And then, as time goes on and they do the research and they really take a look at it, yeah, I don't want to say they become radicalized, but they see it for what it is. And he didn't do that. He just came out guns blazing and realized that, contrary to popular belief, the number one religion that backs Israel in the United States, it's not American Jews, it's American evangelical Christians. And he went right at the heart of them and called them out on their hypocrisy. That's when I was like, oh, okay. Like, again, I don't agree with 95% of the stuff you say, but you're spot on with this.
Yeah, I remember when I think he brought Mark Rubio, was it, or whatever, on his show, and he's telling him, so the Bible commands us to bless the Zionist state of Israel that is creating in 1948.
Yeah.
And I'm
That
like,
was That was I think that
Ted
was was
Cruz,
that
Ted
Ted Cruz?
Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, and then Ted Cruz didn't even know where it is in the Bible, that verse.
Yeah,
And in the verse, actually, God is talking to Abraham, and he says, I will bless you. His name was Abram. He was not blessed yet. And then he blessed him, called him Ibrahim. So he's telling him that I will make many nations out of you, and I will bless those who bless thee, like you,
yeah,
Abraham. Right? And to us, as followers of Christ, the seed of Abraham to us is the Messiah, Jesus Christ. So God is telling you to bless his son, Jesus, the Messiah, not a pot of land
yeah,
creating in 1948. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I remember seeing that and I was like, wow, man, it just shows how dumb these people sound and look, you know?
yeah.
Well, let's shift gears. So you see what's happened on October 7, all right? And then immediately after that, we've seen how escalated the genocide started and became until today. They're still killing Palestinians. So tell me about your reaction to seeing what's happening on October 7 and beyond.
Oh, wow. Uh, it's been it's been a weird mix of emotions. It's anger that, like I said, it's anger that, I'm, albeit very indirectly, complicit in this through being an American taxpayer, to just utter disgust. Like, but then again, when you look back at the history since 1948, it's not that surprising. And even when you look back at the history of just the time that Benjamin Milikowski, I refuse to call him by his Hebraized last name to sound more indigenous to the Levant, when he's really from Poland. But when you look back at his time as prime minister, this has been in the works long before October 7th, 2023. I think the this has been the goal, whether stated or implied, of every Israeli prime minister, going back to Ben Gurion, in my opinion. You know, they they see Palestinians as a threat, and it's ridiculous. You know, the more I learned about, the more I did a deep dive and really learned about the Nakba, you know, there's a line in the Macklemore song Hins Hall that's my favorite line in the song, and it sums up the last, almost 78 years now, when he says, "The Nakba never ended, the colonizer lied." And it's true. Israel's the only country in the world that can do what they have done for the last 2 years in Gaza, and really since the formation of the state in 1948, and have the world believe it's the victim. No other country in the world would get away with that.
Yeah, I mean, they love to play the victim card and they use the Holocaust to justify their security without mentioning the Havara agreement between the Zionists and the Nazis. Nobody wants to talk about that. And then they say we are dealing with a Holocaust in Europe. They come in ships and we let them in and we take care of them. and then whatever was done to them, they do it to us, which is very ironic when you think about it. So it makes me wonder, are these the people that were going through a Holocaust, or are these other people that came there pretending to be those people that suffered from a Holocaust? I still have questions about the narrative of both World War One and World War Two. And as you said, you didn't like to be the way the system of the education is and forced to study a specific way. Well, I think the education system is corrupt and they keep changing history. Like I just saw Mike Pompeo go on TV and he's talking to one of the ITF soldiers that created this institute for try to train the military in the US to be pro-Israel. And he talks about crazy stuff, man, how he needs to change the history in the books because the victims are not the Gazans. The victim is always Israel because of October 7. And I don't know,
That's
did you see that clip?
I did see that. I did see that clip, and it it didn't surprise me at all. I mean, Mike Pompeo. I mean, Mike Pompeo is a staunch Zionist. He was Secretary of State in Trump's first term. He was responsible. I mean, he played an integral part, like you said earlier, in moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital, recognizing the Golan Heights as part of Israel and not disputed territory between Israel and Syria, like the rest of the world sees it as. So it didn't surprise me. I mean, there's not a lot that can be said after watching a live stream genocide for the last 2 years that would really shock me coming out of the mouth of an American politician.
Yeah. They're not even hiding it anymore. Like the enemy's telling you exactly what he thinks. They're not even trying to be like, hey, look at this. And then they're just doing something on
Yeah.
the side. It's like very prideful, very wicked, just telling you to your face, like, yeah, we're doing it. There's nothing you can do. And now they're like, yeah, we're just going to take the oil of Venezuela. Yeah, we're just going to change the regime in Iran and take over. Yeah, we're just going to do this to Cuba. Yeah, we're just going to mess up with Russia and use Ukraine and kill Ukrainians just for our agenda. And you see it all over the place. Like Trump has been, as you said, he's been in the cabinet for 1 year as the president. Mr. President of Peace. He bombed several countries.
Yeah.
Like, and now he wants to take Greenland.
Yeah. That one I really don't understand.
Did they
Yeah.
discover that there's oil in Greenland?
They must have. That's the only thing that makes sense. That's the only thing that makes sense about why he wants to take Greenland. Is there must have been some new massive oil reserve found underneath all that ice.
Yeah, I'm sure even gas or oil or gold or silver. And Greenland doesn't have a big population. I think what, like 50 to 100,000 people?
Yeah, I mean that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I think Greenland has the right to defend itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think if Greenlanders, I guess that's what they're called, defend themselves, they're Hamas.
Yeah.
Hamas is in Greenland. They're wearing the green band.
Yeah,
Greenland, Green
well,
Hamas.
that's the thing that blew my mind about Venezuela when Marco Rubio came out and said that both Hamas and Hezbollah were in Venezuela. I was like, you guys really will use that excuse for anything, won't you?
Yeah, I think Hamas dug the tunnels under the Atlantic
Yeah.
Ocean all the way to Venezuela and popped
Yeah.
up. They're like, okay, we're free, and ended up in another country. Like, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing that, that to stand with humanity and not want to watch a people be systematically exterminated, that makes you a terrorist sympathizer. Like, it's just I don't know what has gotten older and more overused over the course of the last 2 years. calling us that support Palestine, Hamas and sympathizers and Hezbollah sympathizers, or calling us anti-Semites. Like they like it's to the point now where somebody finds out I'm pro-Palestinian and they call me anti-Semitic. Like I take it as a badge of honor because for one, it's I mean the phrase has been the phrase was co-opted by Israelis from the beginning. They don't even realize that the people that they're committing genocide against are Semites too. So if anybody is truly anti-Semitic in the true definition, not the propagandized definition, it's the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition government.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these people come from Europe. They have the highest skin cancer rates in the world because they're not supposed to be in Palestine. They're allergic to olive trees and olive pollen, and they can't consume olive oil. So they're allergic to that too. Yet they call themselves Semites and God's chosen people while they're killing, and they're atheists. They don't even believe in anybody. They claim they're Jews, but they're not. And then they're killing Muslims and Christians that believe in God, that are Semites, that are from the land, that are from the bloodline of Christ as Palestinians, regardless of the religion. So I think they know what they're doing. I think what these people are doing, and the enemy's using them, they're trying to eliminate the bloodline of Christ. These people hate Jesus Christ. And a lot of them reject him as the Messiah, and their Messiah is not going to be Jesus Christ for his second coming. It's going to be the Antichrist for both Muslims and Christians. That's what I believe. So it's interesting that America's funding the state that hates Jesus Christ to kill people, Palestinians, Muslims, and Christians that love Jesus Christ. And when I try to explain this to Americans, they're like, Israelis hate Jesus Christ? And I was like, well, they follow the Talmud. Have you not read the Talmud? They call us goyim, animals. And they're like, what are you talking about? Then I pull it up and I show them. Because there are Jews that just follow the Torah. Those are the real Jews. But then you have the Talmudic Jews that went elsewhere with it. They're so lost. And that's what most Israelis are. And the other most of Israelis are atheists. So half and half, let's say. They're like, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. But you're believing God's chosen people? Yes. And I'm like, what? How can you not believe in God and say you're God's chosen people? That's been interesting to educate people about all that. So tell me, after you saw what's happening in Gaza, how did that affect you personally, and what happened from that point on?
Oh wow. Oh. It shook me to my core. It really did. Um, you know, the constant images that were coming out of Gaza were just there were times where they made me feel violently ill. Like I couldn't believe that this was happening and that the government of the country that I live in is supporting it, and not just supporting it, but the one of if not the biggest supporter of it of any country in the world. And I got angry, and I still am angry. I don't think that anger has subsided one bit over the course of the last 2 years. If anything, I think it's grown because this has been going on for 2 years. Whether it was, Operation Protective Edge or any of the other previous operations, they weren't this long, a few weeks, a few months, but this is 2 solid years of bombardment, of starvation, of genocide. And it's to the point now where I don't want to say I'm numb, but like I said earlier, there's nothing that will shock me anymore. Like I was watching Al Jazeera when the double tap on the Nasser Medical Complex happened, unaliving the 5 journalists and the civil defense workers. And while that was tragic, it's it's become commonplace over the course of the last 2 years. Like, you just when you've been watching it in real when you've been watching this unfold in real time, as heartbreaking as it is, and I say this for myself, there's a part of you that that expects it after what we've seen over the last 2 years, you know? The one image that sticks out in my head, and I can honestly say will stick with me for the rest of my life, was the image after the tents at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital were bombed with, can't remember his name, but the 19-year-old patient that, because obviously, they've destroyed every hospital in Gaza, and there was footage of watching him being burned alive with an IV still in his arm. Like, I mean, I could go on and on about the images that I've seen over the course of the last 2 years that will stick with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Speaking about numb, maybe that's their plan. Maybe the plan of the elites is to make humanity numb. So now when you see somebody getting killed or burnt or bombed, even if it's a child, you can just look at it and go back to what you're doing. Maybe that's their goal, is to numb humanity, because I understand what you're saying. You get used to it to the point that you're like, oh, it's expected, right? Oh, another one. Oh, another child. Oh, another man. Oh, another woman. And that's the process of stripping us out of our humanity. Not just like dehumanizing Palestinians, which is also the target, but dehumanize us, like eliminate humanity from us. So I can see that that might be the tactic. So now when they accelerate the killing, maybe in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Venezuela, who knows who's next? Sudan, right? Congo, all these countries, then we're like, oh, well, it happened in Gaza and it was okay. It was fine to do that, which maybe is the way of the devil. Okay, so you go through that phase of, okay, I feel kind of numb, hopeless, angry. What happens next?
Oh, wow. So I I started reading the Quran to educate myself, to combat the rampant Islamophobia that the Zionist entity uses to dehumanize Palestinian Muslims. And the more that I read it, and then, the more that I kept watching, crying mothers that had just lost, a child or multiple children or their entire families. And despite going through the worst that humanity could throw at them, it was alhamdulillah for everything. They never once wavered in their faith. And that to me was inspiring. So to give a little background on me, initially raised Christian, but what I like to refer to as a Christmas and Easter Christian, as those were the only 2 holidays, my family really went to church. Then, started really questioning that and became an atheist. But, like I said, reading the Quran to combat the Islamophobia, and then seeing that, most my now brothers and sisters in Islam in Gaza were going through that, and not once losing an ounce of faith, when when I honestly think nobody would blame them if they did. Nobody would blame them if they did, but yet somehow they didn't. And it really it inspired me to take a deeper look at Islam, and I ended up taking my shahada and becoming Muslim, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, I'll be honest.
Wow. So growing up technically Christian, just the tag, right?
Yeah.
Not really practicing except for going to church Christmas and Easter, which I see that here too. And then I don't know if there's God. Maybe there is. So you become atheist and you just go on with your own life. And then were you an atheist all this time until you start reading the Quran?
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So okay, so you start reading the Quran, obviously in English, because it'd be hard for you to learn Arabic so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start reading it, and I'm sure you start having questions, and you probably asked people or did some research. And yeah, the faith of the Palestinian people is unbreakable. Like I saw the people in broken churches and broken mosques still praying and worshiping God and clinging to God because that's all they got, right?
Mhm.
And I think what Christianity did in the West, especially speaking of the United States, because that's where I'm at right now, they weaponized the Bible. They took Christ out of the Bible and they replaced him with Israel. So that is not Christianity. And I think that Christianity in the West is using both Christians and Jews as human shields. And to me, that's not the true form of Christianity. Because as a follower of Christ myself, Christ demands us to love our neighbor, pray for our enemy, even as they're killing us. Pray that the stake gets out of their eye, they can see what they're doing. Remember Jesus' words on the cross, well, God forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. Because people don't know what they're doing. The people in the ITF, some of them probably know what they're doing, and some of them they're like, no, I'm just defending my country. Just like when American servicemen and women were shipped to Iraq, I'm defending for the freedom of the United States. I decided to protect my country. Then they get shipped and then they're in the battle and they're like, what the heck am I doing here? Then they give them the medal and I served for my country, and then they get thrown in the streets. But yeah, in Gaza, the faith of the people is so solid, man, that I don't think they can break it. They try to break it. Apparently, they did not succeed because they bombed all the churches, all the mosques. They even burned graveyards, man. We can't even die in peace, right? We can't live in peace. We can't die in peace. And then they talk about this Judeo Christian narrative that we need to protect the Christians around the world. And they're bombing Christians in Gaza. And those churches were sheltering both Muslims and Christians.
Whenever I talk to Christian Zionists, the thing that I always like to bring up is that I always like to ask them, "Did you know that Israel bombed the 3rd oldest church in the world, which happened to be in Gaza?" And they always say, "Well, no." And I'm like, "Yeah, they did. The Church of St. Porphyrius, and you're supporting that."
Yeah. Yeah. Man, the ITF soldiers assassinated two Christian elder women that were crossing the street right in the head, right? That was like the first week of the genocide. And then the second week, they bombed the first church and killed like 33 Christians. And the numbers of Christians is already low in Gaza because of the occupation. It's not because of the Muslims, guys, it's because of the Israeli Zionists. So it's interesting how they try to use this narrative of as Jews versus Muslims, and they remove the Palestinian Christians out of the equation. And I believe that was their goal all along from 1948, because Palestine used to be 30%, 20% to 30% Christians before 1948, living in peace with Muslims and the 5% Jews. So their goal was, first, we're going to take the Jews and make them Israelis. Okay, so they stripped them out of the Palestinian identity. Then we're going to take they call them Arabs, the Palestinians, in the land and give them Israeli citizenship. And now we're going to call you Arab Israeli, right? And then we're going to kill the Christians, because then the narrative we can push is, oh, we're the only Jewish state surrounded by all the Muslims who wants to kill us. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi, terrorism. So that was their plan. And when Malkowski goes on TV and says we're the protectors of the Christians, all I have to ask him, well, how did the number of Christians in the Holy Land decreased in the past 77 years from 25% to 1%? The birthplace of Jesus Christ, Beit Lahem, which used to be predominantly Christians, also Beit Sahur, the Shepherd's Field, Beit Jala, all Christian, now barely 20% Christians. I see their plan is to eventually make all the churches in the Holy Land as museums. Because once you eliminate the Christians in the land, who's going to pray there? The Muslims are going to the mosques, the Jews are going to the synagogues and the crazy wall. So who's going to go to the church? People are going to go from outside the country to look. There's not going to be priests, there's not going to be services. And I think it's an attack not just on Muslims, it's obviously attack on Christians. And nobody want to talk about that because they want to sell this as Muslims want to kill the Jews. That's what they want to sell it as.
I was just gonna say, I don't understand how he can say, what they're doing in Gaza, but then, settlers in the ITF are going into the last predominantly Christian village in the West Bank and, destroying homes and, you know, killing Palestinian Christians. Like, again, it's this it's this weird cognitive dissonance that Zionists have. They'll say one thing, and then when you point out that reality says something completely different, you're a liar, you're an anti-Semite, you're against the state of Israel. It's like, no, we see the truth for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're very quick with labeling you to shut you up. But first of all, that label does not serve its purpose. Number one, it lost its taste. If you want to say anti Israel, that doesn't make you anti Semite because what is that? What is even the term anti Semite means? Do you know how many Semitic people there is in the world? And they come in so many different colors. Armenians are Semites, Palestinians, Lebanese, Syrians, Ethiopians, Egyptians. Like you can get from black to white and they're Semites because they come from Shem. So, but they try to say that the only true Semites are the Jews. And I'm like, well, what is a Jew today? A Jew is a person who follows Judaism, which means you converted to Islam. If you convert to Judaism, now you're a Jew. So now you can say, I come from Palestine and I need to take a home. Like, I need to move to Israel and take a home. Like, do you understand? Like, how crazy is that thinking process? There seems to be a problem right now around the world. It's the Jewish question. And Israel created that. Just want to make sure people know that Israel created the Jewish dilemma now. Not the Austrian painter, the new Austrian painter, Polish painter, butcher of Gaza. They created this Jewish question. How are we going to know who's a Zionist and who's a Jew?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for probably the last year or so, and I stand by it 100%. It's not Islam that has made the world unsafe for Jews. It's Zionism, and it has for since the time of Herzl in the late 1800s. I mean, Herzl is quoted in his diary as saying the anti-Semite will be the Zionist's the anti-Semite will be the Zionist's best friend. They want they make the world again, they're the only country and the only political ideology in the world that will make themselves unsafe and then say it's the rest of the and then again play victim. It's just the I don't know if it's hypocrisy or the double standard. It's astounding.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to be honest with you. So where do you see the state of Israel heading to with everything going on today? And where do you see the relationship with the US and Israel going with everything you're seeing happening here?
Oh wow. So as far as the Zionist entity itself, I think it's on its last legs. I really think it's becoming a pariah state, much like apartheid South Africa. The only difference is we're not there yet with, sanctions and embargoes and things like that. But I do think that as more people wake up to the Israeli and Zionist influence all over the world, but specifically here in the United States, I think that will pick up steam. I think we're going to see, well, hopefully, we'll see more people join the BDS movement. I think that's crucial. And as far as the relationship with the United States, short of another USS Liberty type event, I don't see it changing anytime soon. It's definitely not gonna change in the next 3 years under Donald Trump. That's for sure. He's made it very clear he is going to be, I think he even is quoted as saying he's going to be the most pro-Israel president in the history of the United States. Or maybe that was Biden. Who knows? They're both Zionists. It all runs together at this point. But yeah, barring either another USS Liberty or, God forbid, another 9/11 type event where it's very clear that Israel was behind it, I don't see the United States' relationship with Israel changing anytime soon, as much as I would like it to.
Well, I mean, we saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which was horrific to watch, and in front of college kids, man, you know? So that was insane. And then we saw what he said about the Zionist entity like maybe 10 days before he was taken out, and still people didn't see it. So, that Zionist state is very known for false flag attacks.
Mhm.
Do you think, as they're seeing the Israeli people in civil war right now, by the way, they're divided there. And then we have almost a civil war here with everything going on with ICE, and people are anti war, whether it's Venezuela or Iran. Do you see them trying to create two false flag attacks, one in Israel and one here, to unite the Israelis and to unite Americans like they did in September 11th against a foreign nation like Iran? Do you see that happening to knock two birds in one stone?
I do. I think that's very possible because I mean, at least from a United States perspective, Iran has always been the boogeyman in the region, especially since the revolution of 1979. I mean, I don't know how many I've lost count of how many people I've talked to, and they say, "Oh, you support Iran, you support the IRGC, they say death to America." And I always explain to them, it's like you've bought into the propaganda. When the Ayatollah says, death to America, America is the great Satan, it doesn't mean that, they're going to send Iranian operatives to the United States and kill 340 million people. And again, it goes back to the American education system. Like, the average American doesn't know that in 1953, we overthrew a democratically elected president of Iran in Mohammad Mossadegh to reinstall the Shah. And the reasoning behind that, Mossadegh nationalized Iranian oil. So even then, a full half century before we went into Iraq for the oil, it's always been about oil for the United States and the Middle East.
It's all for the petrodollar, right?
Hmm.
And we're seeing that collapse right in front of our own eyes, So I don't know what the future holds for America, but I guess may God be with us
Yeah.
all, man, because
Yeah.
the future is not looking too bright here, right? It's getting
Yeah.
darker and darker.
Yeah. It's really not. Like, I always, especially, with what's gone on in Minneapolis with, the murder of Renee Good at the hands of an ICE agent, you know, it was something that people always talked about, but, like, at the same time, regardless of who's in the White House, you always have faith that, those types of agents are never going to do that to an American citizen, and yet here we are. Like it's one of those things that if that's not going to wake people up, if that's not going to wake people up to how broken our system is, I don't know what will.
Yeah, I agree. Like people took sides of the ICE person, people took her side, and I'm like, bro, before you take sides, like an American woman, citizen, just got shot in the head 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, the first shot you want to say he was self-defending himself because she hit him. Okay, what about the two other
Yeah.
shots?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just yeah, it's not about like who's right and who's wrong. Like a woman was murdered. Like I her and her kids are without a mother. Like her parents are without a daughter. I don't know if she had siblings, but if she did, they're without a sister. Like for once, I wish Trump supporters would just take the politics out of it and look at it as a matter of humanity.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem is they're bought into this two-party system. For example, when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, there was liberals, Democrats making fun of him. And now, since Renee is, I guess, more liberal because Charlie Kirk was more conservative. So now the thing they hated, they're doing. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like it's flip-flopping this game of
yeah,
ha 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 ha. And I'm like, that's what the Zionists want. They want us to kill each other,
yeah,
you know? And as long as we're divided, we can't see the common enemy.
yeah. Yeah, and it's just being on social media, I mean, it scares Milikowski. I mean, that's why after the UN General Assembly, he had that meeting with all those influencers and was like, "Yeah, we did good. We're gonna buy TikTok, and next we're gonna buy X." Like, social media scares the ever-loving crap out of the Zionist entity and out of Netanyahu specifically, because he knows that that's where the Hasbara goes to die, because we know the truth, we get the truth out there, and no amount of money or propaganda is gonna fix that problem.
Yeah, I think, as they call it, the PR of Israel is destroyed. You could try to lie and bring these people and pay them $7,000 a pop for a post, but we already know who those people are. We see what blaspheming Ben Shapiro is doing.
Yeah.
His views are going to the ground. He's even getting called by Megyn Kelly and everybody else, which I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Turning point, turning to toilet paper USA, right?
Yeah. I heard Ben Shapiro at one point was losing 10,000 YouTube subscribers a day.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Yeah, hopefully all the other ones in the government, like Huckabee and Pompeo and Ted Cruz and them, start getting no more support from the people, especially the evangelical Christians. I pray these people wake up because they're leading this country to destruction. That's where
Yeah.
America is heading, from within. Because I believe America will get destroyed from within if it doesn't repent, turn back to God. They keep saying, like, we want to make it a Christian nation. And I'm like, then do it. If you want to make it a Christian nation, do you know how much stuff you need to get rid of? Bye bye
Yeah.
porn, bye bye usury, bye bye Hollywood, bye bye drinking, bye bye drugs, smoking. I mean, everything that America thrives on will be dead.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me as a Muslim when, when these white Christians, they say, "Oh, Muslims want to bring Sharia law to the United States and it's not compatible with Western values." Like I keep thinking to myself, like, again, like all those things you mentioned, if Sharia law came to the United States, those would be gone too. And I firmly believe that the United States would be better off. The United States would be better off. Like, but again, it's just yeah, but again, it's just the decades of propaganda that they like, and the one that really bothers me, and it bothered me even before I became a Muslim, but the blatant misinterpretation of the word jihad to fit a narrative. It's just, when I started, when I became Muslim and I really realized that, like, they think of it as this holy war, and it's not. You know, it just means struggle, and anything can be a struggle. Like, the example that I always give people is, like, you set your alarm in the morning and it goes off and you don't wanna get up and you hit the snooze button. That's jihad. But it's been so warped over the course of the last 25 years since 9/11 that no matter how you try and correct people, they're just so brainwashed and so indoctrinated with the propaganda that it doesn't matter what you tell them. They're gonna believe what they wanna believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how they call it. It's a holy war. I'm like, there's no war that is holy, number
Yeah.
one. Then Sharia law. And I'm like, Sharia means law.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that when I learned that Sharia means law in Arabic, and they're essentially saying law, law.
law, like Native
Yeah,
American.
yeah, I lost it because, like, it's the same as, like, people saying chai tea because chai means tea.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say Sharia law. And I never knew that term until recently. So, the Zionists are
Yeah.
regurgitating that term, creating it. And then I reached out to some Muslims and I was like, what is this? It's like, man, I just learned this term too, Sharia law.
Yeah.
And then my other friend, he's like, yeah, I guess they want to implement Shakira law. And he started dancing. The hips don't lie.
Yeah.
And we were just laughing about it. And I'm like, there's not even one country in the Muslim world that truly has Sharia law, according
Yeah.
to the description of Americans,
Yeah.
American evangelical Christians and Zionists. And I'm like, that the way they describe it, it doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the funny part. But they're like, oh, it's coming and they're going to do this and kill people. I was like, that is not the law. If that was the Islamic law, whether wouldn't other countries be already doing this nightmare that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about Sharia law.
I gave up fairly early on in the course of the last 2 years of trying to figure out Zionist logic because there's no rhyme or reason to it. They'll literally say anything and everything to fit their narrative.
Yeah, well, this group of people, man, like Jesus warned us against these people in John 8:36 to 44. And he tells them they say that their father is Abraham. And he's like, no, if your father was Abraham, then you will follow my teachings. I'm the Messiah. And then they're like, no, we only follow Abraham. Our father is like, well, your father's not Abraham. Your father's the devil, and he's the father of all lies. And who's lying the most today? The Zionists. All they do is lie. I don't care what's religion they claim. They're Zionists, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, whatever, even Hindu, they're Zionists, right? So I believe these people are using religion, and that's what the enemy does. He uses the religion to push his narrative by destroying the beliefs of other people and their image, which is what Sharia law is all about.
Mhm.
Well, Dan, this was a pleasure, man. I want you to tell the audience where they can find you and follow you.
So you can find me on TikTok at Hipster Genius 3.0. I'm on X at Hipster Genius 2, and you can find my Substack at hipstergenius.substack.com.
Awesome, awesome. And before you go, what is one thing you want the world to know about Palestine?
I'm gonna take a quote from Anthony Bourdain when he said, "Everything else was made in China, but courage was made in Palestine."
Courage is made in Palestine. Yeah, that was a beautiful quote. Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for your time. May the Lord keep on blessing you and protecting you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, you take care, brother.
You too.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
All right, guys, you heard it from my brother Dan. Beautiful human being. Support him, follow him. Until then, God bless you. Christ is King, and always free Palestine.